We live? Oh, I didn't give me an indication. Anyway, welcome back to the Paisan Sports podcast presented by Recliner Media Network. Dante DePlacido joined, as always, nobody different this time. It's never been anybody different. Joined, as always, by Zach Deal of What's the Deal Sports. So I've got to ask, what was the deal with the Celtics coach on the bench playing keep away with the basketball? Ball goes out of bounds. His Celtics coach catches it. It's Sixers ball, and B tries to get the ball from him so he can inbounds. And the Celtics coach wrestled it away. He wouldn't give Embiid the ball. What was going on there?
We talked about that with Mike yesterday, the owner of Recliner Media. That's why Ant Edwards and Nikola Jokic were beefing in that series. So it's like wrestling over the basketball, trying to get like the inbound quick possession. So I mean, that's just like a staple of basketball beef in the Cardinal rule department. So
it was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. But
hold on, you want to build off that? What's the deal with Joe Mazzulla challenging that clear?
Oh, that was a bad challenge.
Yeah, does he need some
He
glasses?
completely smacked him on the arm.
And then he didn't have a challenge for down the stretch late in the game.
Yeah, that was an all. I really think Nick Nurse absolutely outcoached Mazzulla, and I'll get into some reasonings why that is in a moment. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. The Sixers have done it. They've done the impossible. Down 3-1 in the series to the Boston Celtics. Not only do they come back to win it, but they win a Game 7 on the road in Boston. I still have not calmed down from the excitement.
Yeah, and you were the one that was doubting them.
I was doing reverse psychology, and it worked, and I will not apologize.
I told you down to them scoring 109 points as my final prediction.
Well, I had the total points, because I said 106, 104, so I had the total points at 210. The final total points was 209.
I told you we'd have to worry about a late surge, and that's, it's sort of
there
really
was
nervous.
a late surge.
I mean, I looked at the stats that they pulled up on the broadcast. I think there was 5 minutes left in the game, and my bad, I got these spammers always attacking my Discord. But I looked at
spammers.
I looked at the stats that the broadcast pulled up late in the game. There was 5 minutes left in the game. The Celtics were on a run, and the Sixers were shooting 2 for 12 and 17% from the field in the fourth quarter. And my mind almost ventured towards, it's about to happen again. The Sixers are about to come up short again.
To think that
and I collected myself and I said, nah, this is a different team. And that's what I've been trying to say, why I hated bringing up these past Sixers teams, and we're not going to talk about it on this podcast at all. There's nothing relating this team because this is an entirely different team. So what this team is able to do with the players that they put out on the court, and it was like really, we talked about those little spot minutes. There was 5-6 players that played last night, and there was little spot minutes for Justin Edwards and Andre Drummond. But outside of that, that's all that they got. So they went out there with the same players pretty much that they've been rolling with the past couple games that they've had success, that have been playing high-level minutes. Paul George was, not feeling the greatest on his 36th birthday or 37th birthday, whatever it was. And he went out there and he just did enough. Missed out on my done deals parlay by literally that blocked Paul George basket.
Yeah,
so
I saw
missed
that.
out on $600 because of that. But at the end of the day, betting was out the window yesterday. I just could not latch my emotions onto anything that was going to deter me from living in the moment of the Sixers finally getting it done. And this is the greatest playoff series win of any magnitude in the history of Philadelphia 76ers.
I wouldn't say the greatest is a bit tough because, this is a team with 3 finals victories. I wouldn't put it ahead of those clinching games.
I don't want to get the OGs round up.
I would also argue that maybe Game 1 of the 2001 NBA Finals was a massive, massive victory. How they still, the rest of the series didn't play out well after that. But at the time, going into LA, Game 1, Allen Iverson putting the team on his back. They went, I believe, in overtime.
That was the only game that the Lakers lost in the playoffs that year.
Yeah. So, I would argue, at the time that game concluded,
I also wanted to just mention,
but this is absolutely up there. It's easily the biggest playoff victory of the Joel Embiid era, and it's not even close. I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, I was kind of not thinking more so past 2000s when we're talking about the finals, because you referenced the finals and how they had 3 victories. That hasn't happened anytime since we've been alive.
No.
So,
Nothing post the curse of William Penn.
Yeah, so what I was saying was, I don't want to rile up the OGs, but if we're just being completely honest, what the league has developed into and evolved into, as in the structure of how series go to Game 7, as opposed to back in the day, they weren't even 7-game series in the first round until 2003. Also, there wasn't as many teams involved in conferences back in the day when they were winning finals. And when you add all those elements into it and just the elephant in the room of just the entire, like, the process has pretty much been, who has been the arch nemesis to the process?
Oh, the Boston Celtics.
And what specific things about the Boston Celtics? Their roster construction compared to ours, because we gave them practically their...
Jason Tatum. Yeah.
And Jaylen Brown. We had the chance to draft Jaylen Brown, too. He was in the top 3 of the draft. We had top 3 draft picks both of those years, of both of those guys, and we didn't come out with either of them, and they've won an NBA championship. Yeah. And we haven't. But now, I'm not going to say this is a bigger accomplishment than what the Boston Celtics have been able to do. And I completely get, I pulled the clip before this podcast started today and posted it on the page. If you guys want to go, make sure you guys go follow Paisan Sports on all social media pages. We're always cooking out content every day. So, I pulled the clip yesterday saying, I completely understand why Jason Tatum didn't play in this game. Like, you can't, it's a first-round series for the Boston Celtics. I see it that way. But also, with that being said, the Celtics wanted to win that series. You saw it was getting chippy between Jaylen Brown and Joel Embiid yesterday.
Well,
and the last thing that I said on the podcast, like, dude, you really think, I'm not trying to, like, hit on you because it's very logical why you thought the Sixers want to get it done yesterday. I just had full belief in them. But I told you, like, dude, they're literally starting Ron Harper Jr. in a playoff game.
What was very odd, and when I say Nick Nurse outcoached Joe Mazzulla,
down to that challenge that we referenced.
Well, yeah, down to the challenge. The first thing I think of, matter of fact, is won the game for the Sixers. Throughout the entire game, you're running the offense through Joel Embiid. It's working. He's dominating. He's cooking Jaylen Brown on defense, who's defending him for some reason. He's getting buckets on Kata. He's whatever white guy they had on him in the low post. He was dominating him. Luka Garza.
He also started. But real quickly, I just want to hit the stat that came out from. It was one of the bigger NBA X accounts that like everybody follows, and then ESPN also posted it after. Talking about guys like Ron Harper Jr. and Luka Garza starting for them. Did you see the stat where they're the first team in NBA history to have 3 starters not score in a playoff game?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting to here is, so throughout the entire game, Joel Embiid is dominating. The offense running through him is working. Then you get down to the fourth quarter. The offense through Joel Embiid had gone stale. It had gone completely stale, and you're in a situation where Boston is really starting to put together in the fourth quarter. They're making you nervous, and Nick Nurse sort of makes the adjustment and puts the ball in Tyrese Maxey's hands for that final stretch. And after one of the worst missed layups I've ever seen, Maxey then after that sort of took over and got them to the finish line. So shout out to Nick Nurse for making that adjustment late in the fourth quarter, putting the ball in Maxey's hands, getting it to the finish line. That's the one reason I was thinking when I say Nick Nurse outcoached Joe Mazzulla. But another big reason.
I just wanted to hit on what you just said real quick because we talked about yesterday. Tyrese Maxey, at times when they lost, the Celtics, why did they lose the series? They settled for the 3, and when it's not there and you don't have Jason Tatum and they're not making the shots, they said it themselves. Everybody was talking about how the Celtics settled for 3s. I kept talking about Tyrese Maxey coming off that pick and roll and settling for the 3. When he gets downhill, he's one of the best finishers in the entire league.
You can't catch
him. And we talked about him doing that, and what happened down the stretch? He just was going inside. You think Luka Garza's Jordan Walsh, whoever they want to throw inside, like Nikola Vucevic, is going to stop him from getting to where he needs to on the paint. And the Sixers, also this series specifically, did a really good job. A couple free throws down the stretch, I was a little upset that they were missing, but they created a lot of and-one situations in the series by getting to the rim.
Yeah, absolutely. But just to finish my thought here, so to your point, another big reason Nick Nurse outcoached Joe Mazzulla is Joe Mazzulla, for whatever reason, had outside of Jaylen Brown, he had all of his best players coming off the bench and the guys that should have been on the bench were in the starting lineup. And in the first 4 minutes, I mean, that really hurt them because they were running with that group for the first 4 minutes. Those guys had no business starting that game. And that was also a big contributing factor. The Sixers that helped the Sixers get off to a hot start.
Well, I also said at the end on that rant, at the end of yesterday's live preview show, I was saying this falls on the Celtics front office, even though they didn't expect to have Jason Tatum available this season at all in the situation they found themselves in, in a Game 7 this year. Their roster construction, it's your fault that you didn't expect the Sixers, whether it was vice versa of you being a back-end playoff team because you didn't have Jason Tatum the whole year, but you obviously still have Jaylen Brown and you're still a great team, just from having the solidified perennial playoff contender you've been. But they could have easily been the 7th seed, and with the talent the Sixers had, even though they picked at the top of the draft, the Sixers could have been the 2nd seed. So you could have, in different scenarios, if these seedings were flipped, regardless of how it played out this year, you weren't prepared to stop Joel Embiid in the playoffs.
That was also a huge thing I wanted to talk about, because after the win last night, a lot of people noticed the clip that kind of, was, I guess, under the radar throughout the series, but everybody then, attention was brought to the clip of Peyton Pritchard. I don't know which game it was before, if it was before the game that Embiid was questionable but didn't play, or the game he was questionable and then did end up playing. I think it might have been the latter, but Peyton Pritchard said, yeah, we haven't really given any thought to Joel Embiid playing. We're not worried about it. We're not game planning for it. What a gigantic mistake. A former MVP is about to enter the series and you're not even going to game plan for it? It completely bit them in the ass.
Yeah, and also Jaylen Brown said that he said in an interview, I forget where or what platform it was on, but he said during a podcast or an interview during the season that the Sixers might actually be better without Joel Embiid.
Yeah, and I saw that too. I saw that as well. Just an awful take. And by the way, my hatred after last night for Jaylen Brown has skyrocketed.
Also saying that Joel Embiid was flopping. I love him as a player. He, like I said yesterday,
love him as a player. He is one of the most unethical hoopers in the game, in my opinion. And one thing I did want to bring up, you might appreciate me saying this, after watching last night's game, I have a new appreciation for Nikola Jokic, because, when you're in a league with the Jaylen Browns of the world, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders of the world, who go out there either foul baiting or pushing off on every offensive possession and flopping on defense, when you have a guy like Nikola Jokic who actually plays the game of basketball the right way, I have a new appreciation for that.
I've been trying to tell you that for how long, dude?
Yeah, well, I just don't like when people say he's better than Joel
I don't understand, just because they're the two best bigs in the league, they do pretty much the same things. Jokic just looks to pass more, and Joel Embiid looks to shoot more. So when Joel Embiid yesterday almost has another near triple-double in the playoffs, which he was the last Sixer to do that a couple years ago, and he plays more like Nikola Jokic, you see the impact that he has. But he's still a better defender at the end of the day. So as much as, they can teeter the seesaw with how much talent they have, they also... Joel Embiid's not going to go out and get 15 assists like Nikola Jokic can almost do in his sleep. But then again, Joel Embiid, when he's able to protect the rim and maybe have a little bit more energy to do that because he's not forcing the shots up on offense and he's just taking what the defense gives him and they're playing and flowing as an overall offense for the Philadelphia 76ers, he has that extra energy on defense to be able to provide for that rim protection that they so desperately needed, where they were forced to play a Dean Bona who's so offensively limited. Imagine some of these moments down the stretch if we were relying on a Dean Bona protecting the rim for us, and he was playing offense on the other way too.
We would
I'm not trying to hit on him either because I like him as a player, but he's just not developed enough right now to make an impact in this type of series.
Yeah, but I want to get back to Jaylen Brown for a second, because the things that pissed me off about him, not only seeing his comments from earlier in the series, he had the comments at the end of the game where, he was just a total sore loser, saying, Embiid's just out there flopping around, but I guess that's the league that we're in. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown, on a defensive possession against Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown grabs onto Embiid's jersey and then throws himself to the ground. That is the definition of flopping around. And then on offense, he did things that pissed me off, like when he ran full speed straight up Jerome Bettis runs over Paul George. And then Embiid gets called for a hostile act, which was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Jaylen Brown was continuing through the play, and Joel Embiid just went up to defend the play. Called that a hostile act and give him a flagrant for it. It was absurd. But then also there was the possession where he almost took Joel Embiid out of round 2 when he just shoved Tyrese Maxey into Embiid's knee.
There was also a couple plays Joel got him back a little bit too, so it goes both ways. We're not just going to center it around Joel and not pushing him on that one play too, but I'm just saying it goes back and forth. This is playoff basketball. We talked about with Mike, the owner of Recliner Media, is this game going to get really physical? And you saw this game was getting very physical. Especially, that's what I thought, when they're out there starting Luka Garza, Shireman, whatever that dude's name is, and
one of the white guys.
And they're starting, now I'm drawing a blank on the dude's name that the other dude, Ron Harper Jr., who is the brother of the Spurs player, Dylan Harper Jr.
Oh, he is. I didn't know that. Okay.
His dad also said that stupid stuff about LeBron, and then LeBron I feel like that was one of the reasons also LeBron has taken over recently. But, when you start 3 guys like that, I'm just like, dude, what are these dudes going to do? They didn't score. They couldn't even play minutes.
Played bad,
and that stat is also
they were just out there.
Well, that stat's also not exactly that stat's a little misleading as well, because let's look at how many total minutes they actually played down the stretch. They started the game, but
let's see how many total minutes they played.
That's what I'm saying. They started the game, but there's a lot of times those guys
Garza played 9 minutes. Harper Jr. He played those first 4 minutes and then never came back in the game.
You can't.
Why even start him? And then Walsh came off. To
a non-Sixers fan, you know what starting Ron Harper Jr. is like? To a non-Sixers fan, that's significantly worse than somebody who the hell is Justin Edwards?
So Garza played 9 minutes, shot 0 of 2 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. Had no rebounds, no assists, no steals, 1 block, 1 turnover, and a plus minus of minus 15.
Yeah.
In 9 minutes. That's bad.
And there's a lot of dudes like that. There's dudes in the Pistons rotation that they drafted high in the draft. All those dudes from the Rockets are getting cooked by 41-year-old LeBron, and they were the high lottery draft picks. And then the Sixers got VJ Edgecombe, who drops 23, 6, and 4 at 20 years old in a playoff game, shooting 5 from 11 from deep.
Yeah, now that's what I want to talk about next, and I want to monologue for a second.
Paisan picks yesterday, over 11.5, wasn't even a sweat.
Yeah, no. But I want to monologue for a second because, you see, in the first half, Derek White was going off.
Yeah. And we said that he had to be the X factor yesterday.
Hitting threes left and right. Sixers go into halftime. VJ Edgecombe walks into the locker room. He says to Nick Nurse, "Put me on White." That is a rookie. In a game 7
was he
on the road.
Was he talking about the white dudes on the court, or was he talking?
He was talking about Derek White, and that is a rookie. Game 7 on the road in Boston, hostile environment. His first game 7 of his career, saying, "Put me on the guy who was putting up points for them." And he comes out in the second half and he shuts him down. That is a rookie. VJ Edgecombe, they really truly have something special on their hands with VJ Edgecombe. That is a true leader right there.
I mean, dude, we talked about the rebounding aspect of him. He's
he grabs some crucial boards,
I'm not going to talk about he's not I actually am going to talk about him being similar to prime Westbrook, as in, or just young Westbrook. Prime Westbrook was ridiculous. I mean, us being NBA fans, us growing up, Prime Westbrook was I thought you were
talking about Brian Westbrook for a second.
No, yeah, Russell Westbrook. No, I'm just talking about you see how fast Tyrese Maxey gets to the rim. Mm-hmm. Russell Westbrook.
Well, not only was Russell Westbrook fast at getting to the rim, but he, instead of what Maxey has to do, where when he drives to the rim and he just gets past a guy like Cade at the last possible
he's really good at cutting.
He has to
angles.
dip in and put up that layup. But Russell Westbrook, he would just strong to the hoop,
broad
throw
jumping
it down.
into the rim. But the comparison is, you see VJ literally will jump like Eli Stowers. He jumps like Eli Stowers type vertical, 45.5 inches in the air to grab crucial rebounds. And that's like prime Westbrook, where I'm just the most athletic dude in the court, and I'm just going to go and get this rebound when my team needs it at any point in time. And that's the type of dog that he is, because prime Westbrook, who's a bigger dog than prime Westbrook, just flying all over the court.
Just to quote Stephen A. Smith, because VJ Edgecombe, with how athletic he is, he's only 6'4". So just to quote Stephen A. Smith, if this brother had a few more inches, oh Lord, don't get me salivating and fantasizing about things.
Yeah, the neighbors might hear you on that, so you might be hearing some knocks on the door. But also, it's funny, being 29 years old, I felt a little bit weird having my lock screen be this Slam magazine picture of BJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey.
Mine is Saquon Barkley's.
Yeah, but I had like two dudes like without a helmet on staring me in the face every time I unlock my phone. So.
And then my background is Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. You can't really see it as well.
So I have two dudes staring me in the face without a helmet on, so that kind of seems a little bit weird. But I stayed committed to it. I do not care. And these two dudes are like the face of the franchise.
I'll tell you what I consider changing my lock screen to. What is now going to be one of the most iconic photos in Philly sports. That is Joel Embiid staring at Jason Tatum in Game 3 as the Celtics go up 2-1. And what's so funny is it was a Celtics fan who originally posted that as a hee-hee-ha-ha, and now it's an iconic Philly sports photo. Another iconic Philly sports photo that's going to come from this series that I really want to talk about is Joel Embiid showing up to the arena in the LeBron James down 3-1 fit with the sunglasses and the earbuds. People are calling it an aura gamble because if you show up like that, you have to win. You absolutely have to win if you show up in that fit.
I'm glad you brought up LeBron talking about the Sixers, because when Tyrese Maxey first got drafted, he had a bunch of support from people like instantly, like literally on social media. And when you have who I believe is the best player of all time stamping you right then and there, like this kid is special. Look at the player that Tyrese Maxey. I'm not going to sit here and talk about 2023 Sixers basketball, but him specifically, since he was on that roster, the player that he used to be to what he's developed into now. I mean, we thought maybe the progression would be like a Lou Williams off the bench type scorer, and he's the face of the Sixers franchise right now.
Yeah.
But Joel Embiid is still Joel.
Yeah, I mean, the
Embiid,
offense still runs through Joel Embiid. But Maxey, I mean, as much as I love Maxey, my knock on Maxey going into the series, based on what I've seen from him in the past, especially in this regular season with Embiid off the court, is that he's not typically capable of being that guy that that takes over for you, that gets you to where you need to be. And Tyrese Maxey in Game 2 of the series, VJ had 30 points in that game, but Tyrese Maxey in Game 2 of the series had a big performance to help get them the win, and then in Game 7 on the road in Boston gets you to the finish line.
Well, I also think that's just like an outdated narrative, because this season, they referenced it on the broadcast, and if you look at the numbers, he was a very clutch player and put himself in the award voting, because that's actually an NBA award, is like the clutch player of the year.
I'm aware of the award. Which
I feel like that's it. Like, people have to update their narratives. Like, yeah, these guys, certain guys like Paul George on that contract has been falling up short even this season with him getting suspended for 25 games. But
that suspension hurt way more than it hurt.
Yeah, but also what he did last night, I'll pay him $50 million for the 13 points that he gave me last night, and what he did. That move that he put on, I don't know why they didn't attack. Jaylen Brown was on Joel Embiid trying to cover him in the defensive post for pretty much the entire second half, because the lack of like the Luka Garzas that were trying to guard him. Katie was getting in foul trouble, all that stuff going on. But Sam Hauser was also trying to cover Paul George for a while, and the one play that they actually went to that one-on-one matchup, he literally cooked him so hard on that step back three.
Yeah.
People were posting it all over all the NBA big social media accounts. Are like, dude, Paul George is getting in his bag right now.
You know what I think I find funny is in 2018 in those playoffs when we lost to the Celtics. I mean, our issue was we had too many white guys that can't defend, and now fast forward 8 years later, that we've completely flipped the script.
Why?
Why what?
Why did we have that? So why were we in that situation? Like, why were the Sixers caught in that situation?
Well, I mean, they went out and got a bunch of guys who can shoot, but they weren't athletic who could defend. Oh,
Well,
right.
like the
And
roster
then,
construction of having all the money tied up to certain players, and then that's what you have left over to do. And Jaylen Brown's on a 5 for $305 million contract, and then you have, I don't know Jason Tatum's contract off the top of my head, but I think it's like $330 for 5, and that's on the bench for you.
Yeah.
In a Game 7. So, like I said, I understand why Jason Tatum didn't play. Happy as a Sixers guy, because that game down the stretch was getting a little bit tough, and I was definitely felt like it was getting sketchy. And if Jason Tatum was in the mix, shooting over our defenders in that situation, we were playing really good basketball, but that just adds a whole different frightening element for the Sixers. So
Yeah, and there's 3 things I want to talk about well, actually 4, because you added one. But there was a few things we talked about on last night's stream with the owner of Recliner Media, Mike, that kind of came into play in this game. The first thing we were talking about when Mike was talking about how he loves when a random role player really steps up in the playoffs, and I mentioned the Sixers have never really had that. It feels like every time they're in the playoffs, they get 0 bench help. Last night, only 3 bench points the entire game to a lot from the Boston Celtics, but they were still able to win.
yeah, but that's a skewed number. Like you're not a starter for 49 minutes.
No, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. But bottom line is the Sixers bench only had 3 points. Now you could say that was skewed a bit because the only one who had meaningful minutes off the bench was Quentin Grimes, but still he only put up 3 points. He had a missed dunk. So that's one thing that sort of
he grabbed a huge rebound.
He did grab a huge rebound. Yeah,
I honestly.
Well, he plays great defense. Not to knock Quentin Grimes, but I'm just saying we had no points off the bench.
I think we were preaching to the choir. I think they were hearing not only us posting the clips online and all that stuff from the podcast, but everybody else that was screaming like, "Dude, Quentin Grimes, we know you're good. Just realize you're good at basketball again, and go out there and use your versatility and your size." And we talked about the rebounding not just falling on Andre Drummond and VJ Edgecombe, but Quentin Grimes is also in the mix with all those guys because Kelly Oubre, Quentin Grimes is like pretty much a starter now. Like moving forward, if they're going to go 6 or 7 man, Quentin Grimes is going to get the most minutes out of any non-starter in the Sixers rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, now I was wrong about when we were looking at our picks for the game at the end of last night's stream, the betting lines. I said I couldn't see both Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey both dropping 25 plus. They both dropped 30 plus. Forget 25 plus. They both dropped 30 plus. So I was glad to be wrong.
So that wasn't anything that I wouldn't expect because we've seen it a lot in the past that just haven't been able to do it this year because they haven't played a lot with each other this year. So
yeah,
the Sixers with every element that they have on the roster. We talked about being Tyrese Maxey's team. Joel Embiid, when he plays, I don't even know the verbiage. Like, if you don't think Joel Embiid is a top 10 player in the NBA when he is on a basketball court playing in an NBA game, you're just clueless. You're just literally clueless.
Forget top 10, top 5.
There is no argument to make for Joel Embiid not still being a top 10 player in the league, and I don't care about availability because anytime the dude can come back from an appendectomy and drop 34, 12, and 6. And a Game 7 on the road, and he's getting hurt the whole game, too.
Yeah, and not only that, and that transitions me into the third thing that was mentioned on last night's stream is, Mike was sort of asking about the kind of defender Joel Embiid is, and what I said was he's more of... more so earlier in his career, he was more so of an on-ball defender, somebody who can stay with his man. And I referenced in his very first preseason game when John Wall had him isolated on the perimeter and Embiid was able to stick with him. Then you fast forward to last night after Tyrese Maxey gets shoved into Joel Embiid's knee and he comes up limping. The Celtics have a possession where they put Derek White on Joel Embiid. Derek White for 18 seconds of that possession is trying to get past Joel Embiid. He can't do it. He ends up giving it off to somebody else, and then Joel Embiid contests that shot, and it ends up being a miss. So with a hobbled knee and all, Joel Embiid still able to play lockdown defense and help the Sixers get the win. Now, what I do want to do to transition us into looking ahead a bit is I want to talk about Joel Embiid's press conference after the game, where he referenced 2 years ago when the Knicks took over at the time the Wells Fargo Center, and he said, we need you guys for the series. Don't sell your tickets. If you need the money, I got you.
I think the balance of Joel Embiid's personality, now the situation that he has found himself get into, has been crazy.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, that whole post-game interview, it was just Joel Embiid showing his personality.
I think it was asked about the
earbuds, and he's like, oh, it's just a coincidence, allegedly.
Yeah, no, I think it's perfect blend of just everything, and he used to call himself Troel Embiid, like the troll.
He still is a troll, man. Did you see his Instagram post?
No, I was going to talk about his Instagram bio when I clicked on his page today. Has him listed as a comedian.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
But
we don't have to show any more.
But I just wanted to see, because he did post a collage after the game, and one of the photos in the collage was that photo of him staring down Jason Tatum, which I just absolutely love. But yeah, let's look ahead now, because now we escape one tough series against a fierce division rival, and we enter another. How do you feel about Sixers-Knicks starting Monday night?
Was it Joel and Kat? It was Joel and Kat with the headlock situation back in the day, right?
Well, they got into it, but it was Ben Simmons that kind of had him on the ground.
Well, no, Ben Simmons and Kat. No, Ben Simmons did that because him and Kat are good friends, so he was trying to stop that because him and Kat actually have a relationship. But the interesting part,
stream together.
The interesting part was, I think Joel Embiid and Kat got into it, and they didn't have a relationship, so it was kind of that was a part of the awkwardness of the whole that situation. But yeah, Joel Embiid dropped 70 points on Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah,
and he's the best player arguably in the entire NBA.
Yeah,
anybody starting a franchise in the NBA with all the great talent that they have, maybe if you change up the ages, LeBron would be the answer, or Kevin Durant would be the answer, or maybe Steph. But outside of that, if you're talking about today's NBA, you're starting a franchise with Victor Wembanyama. And he's a better defensive player than offensive player, and he can still go out and do that Jokic and Embiid thing where he just can get you 20, 25, 30 whenever, when he's healthy. And he came back in that series and made did you see some of the plays Wemby was making after he came back from the concussion of smacking his face on the court, which was insane. I've never seen someone in the NBA literally brace their entire fall being that big with their face.
Yeah.
Insane. But he came back in that series, and when they closed it out in Game 5, some of the plays he was making was literally ridiculous. And Joel Embiid just dropped 70 points on that dude a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if you want my prediction for this New York Knicks series, I think the Sixers win it.
You're probably wondering why I just went on a Wemby tangent to tie that in. Yeah. Because Cat's considered a top 5 big in the league. Wemby, all these guys, Bam, there's a couple guys you can throw in that mix. Maybe Jaren Jackson Jr.
Garza.
Yeah, stop. So, with that being said, I'm taking Joel Embiid over any big man in the league.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And not only that, but one big key to this series, the best player for the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson. When you look, I don't know if you saw, but somebody shared Jalen Brunson's numbers when being guarded by VJ Edgecombe. 106 possessions, 13.4 points per game, 4.9 assists, 2.1 turnovers, a 38.2% true shooting percentage.
Michael Bridges was almost crying. Your boy Michael
and
Bridges.
And only 1.4 free throws attempted.
Your boy Michael Bridges was almost crying after the one game in the Hawks series because he didn't score any points.
Yeah, so I think the Sixers win this series, and I think they win it in 6 games.
I think this could go 7 too. I think it's going to be.
I think it could go 7. But if I had to make the best prediction I can make, I say Sixers in 6.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news or bring up any potential bad news. But let's be completely honest, especially in this series, this is going to get very physical.
Oh, absolutely.
Outside of that. If it goes 7 games, does Joel Embiid play in every single game in the series?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm hoping so. I'm not trying to put any bad out there, but it's something.
Well, he said he felt great.
Jalen Brunson Jalen Brunson has been banged up in the playoffs with like crazy ankle injuries the past couple of years too. That was a reason why they got upset a couple of years ago. But the Knicks have been at the top 3 East teams in the league since they put that entire team together, and they kind of switched their roster up a little bit, and they stayed atop. So they're definitely a good, tough, physical team. They have LeBron's original coach from the Cavs, who was also the bench coach, the assistant coach for the Warriors, and Mike Brown. So it's a guy that's seen literally everything throughout the last generation of NBA. Really smart coach. He's not throwing that crazy workload on them like Tom Thibodeau used to do. With the Knicks, where the starters were literally playing 45 minutes a night, and that's just what it was. So we'll see how much the rotation gets pinched even more because we're in round 2 and the guys you can rely on. But I don't know. We look at the guys at the top of the rosters here. We could be looking at certain situations, the minutes when Joel Embiid, Jalen Brunson aren't on the court, or the Paul George's, VJ Edgecombe's, Tyrese Maxey's, and OJ Anunoby's a really good player. Cat, those guys, when they're not on the court, what are the minutes when Mitchell Robinson and Andre Drummond are matching up with each other going to look like? And Mitchell Robinson's not the greatest free throw shooter, and neither is Andre Drummond. Maybe that's something that they both try and instill in each other. I think they have Jordan Clarkson off the bench. I don't know if he's been fully available for the entire longevity of the series. But
he played a lot of minutes for them, at least in Game 5.
And it's always about flows, but he's somebody that was a 6th Man of the Year guy that was dropping a lot of points off the bench for a lot of years. So he's somebody that can definitely get hot at random points in time.
Yeah.
And he's played on good teams and has played in that role. So him and Quentin Grimes, what are those former Knick Quentin Grimes? What is Quentin Grimes? How's he going to feel about returning to the Knicks finally in that situation? That was also when we talked about yesterday on the podcast, the construction of the Sixers. You go down the line, you get Kelly Oubre for like a bargain, go this. We signed, I forget his name now, the twin. Martin. Was it Cody or it was?
Caleb Martin.
Caleb Martin, 8 for 32, thinking that we would be using him in a huge role in these type of situations, only to flip him into Quentin Grimes, who we have on a bargain for like 8.7 on the 1-year deal that we convinced him to stay on this team, and he's our main bench guy that we're relying on now.
I mean, if we didn't keep Quentin Grimes, imagine how different things would look, because you wouldn't really have anyone to bring off the bench. And on top of that, something else I was thinking about.
Quentin Grimes, all that, I haven't heard Jared McCain's name in a while, and I think everybody realizes, like, all right, did Daryl Morley actually get a steal by trading him now, Jared McCain, and getting draft picks for how good this team already is? They're in the second round of the playoffs now, and they have assets and draft picks that continue to...
They still sold low. But,
bro, you
but the
realize...
Wait, hold on, because I was trying to get to something here. But the next thing... Yeah, but the next thing I was going to say was... Going into the draft, we had a decent possibility. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
How many minutes did he play in the last 4 games of the Sun series?
Yeah, but I'm saying with the production.
No, just read that out loud.
Yes, but hold on. What I'm saying is the production he put up in the regular season. Had he done that for the 76ers in the regular season, you were to hypothetically trade him in the offseason, you're getting more out of him. So whether you say, they're better off with him or without him in the playoffs, now what I'm saying right now doesn't have anything to do with that. Well, all I'm saying is you still sold low on him because right now he has more trade value than when you traded him. So in essence, you sold low on him. That's what I'm saying.
Nobody in the NBA with what they see him doing in the playoffs and the lack thereof production, because he's in one of the rotations in the NBA that plays the most players consistently. There's no other rotation that goes as deep as the Oklahoma City Thunder, and this dude has played 20 minutes in the last 4 games of the Sun series. And no one is trading 4 draft picks for Jared McCain. No one's doing that. Nobody's doing that.
Well, not to get sidetracked with that argument, I do want to finish my thought, because what I was going to say next was not only is it crucial that you were able to keep Quentin Grimes in the offseason, something that we kept checking in on every week on the podcast, But going into last year's draft, there was a decent possibility the Sixers would lose their pick. And on top of that, there was not a good possibility they would end up with the third pick. Imagine how different things would have looked in the playoffs against Boston had they lost their pick and not had somebody like VJ Edge come on the court for the entire series.
All right, so around the trade deadline, if you could go back, would you have traded Quentin Grimes and kept Jared McCain? Sixers would have lost the series if they did that, but...
Well, Quentin Grimes is a much better defender, so you might have a point there.
Sixers probably would have lost the series in like 5 games if that was the case, but... Yeah, Jared McCain's just a virtual non-NBA playoff player at the current moment. Can score in the regular season. I know so many guys that can do that in the regular season. So many guys. And that's why I'm impressed by Kelly Oubre getting over the narrative of just being a 20-point scorer for the Charlotte Hornets, a team that barely won any games. And it's like, oh, he's just doing empty production on a non-relevant team in a non-relevant market. And then now that dude flies all over the court and creates... When they get out on the run with some of these like really athletic, highlight-type defensive plays, somehow Kelly Oubre is always involved in them. Whether he's the one that starts the break and relays the pass... for the offensive transition moment, or he's the one pinning the ball against the backboard or blocking the shot or jumping in the passing lane. And he's a guy that's kind of like the fourth, fifth fiddle, and he's just right up there with VJ Edgecombe. Him and VJ Edgecombe just do all the dirty work for this team and just let the 3 stars and Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid just handle those bigger moments.
Yeah. Now, I mean, one final thing I want to ask regarding the Philadelphia 76ers is... I think a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I think it was a week ago on this podcast, I said, I think it was a week ago, it was going into Game 5. Excuse me. Going into Game 5, I said, this is a pivotal game for the 76ers because if they lose this, then the entire outlook of the future is going to change because they're not going to want to keep running it back. They're going to want to change things. They're going to want to get rid of guys, Paul George especially, possibly Joel Embiid, and sort of rebuild around the young players. Now, winning this series against Boston, no matter what happens the rest of the way, do you think this is a team that is going to return for next season?
As in
Joel Embiid,
the personnel on the roster?
Yeah.
Quentin Grimes would be the guy that you have to question. I mean, he's playing like... Quentin Grimes could gamble on himself again, take another 1-year deal to stay with this thing, stay with the Sixers, to be on the last year of the Paul George contract or the later years of the Paul George contract, to stay in the mix with this level of a playoff team because you know VJ Edgecombe's going to get better. Tyrese Maxey's only getting better. As Joel gets healthy, this is the team, and you have a carved out role as being a top 6 man. He could gamble on himself again. He would be the guy that would be in question. Gamble on himself again, take a shorter deal, and then after next offseason and see where they go in the playoffs, he could turn that into like a $30 million top level, not only starter or the main bench guy for another playoff team.
Yeah. So now it is time for my meatball of the week. And my meatball of the week, this time, it's not one person, it's an entire city. My meatball of the week is the city of Boston, because they have had a bad stretch ever since February. First, the New England Patriots get blown out in the Super Bowl. Then the then the whole scandal with Mike Vrabel and all of that. And then the Boston Bruins get eliminated in the NHL playoffs, and then the Celtics blow a 3-1 lead and lose to the 76ers. Horrible stretch for the city of Boston. Boston, you're my meatball of the week.
Yeah, it definitely, them, just all that they had going on, they thought they were in a good spot. I mean, they made the Super Bowl this past year, but they didn't win anything. And I think if the New England Patriots would have won another Super Bowl, just as even with them being a young team removed of Tom Brady, it's like, everyone's mad that the Patriots just found themselves somehow winning another Super Bowl, you know what I mean? So Celtics won a championship recently. The Bruins have been like a playoff team, more so than the Flyers, but the Flyers also have, back in the day, to hang their hat, that 3-0 comeback series win over them. So, you know.
Well, and that's the next thing we got to talk about. Because as of our last podcast, I believe The Penguins had won their last two, and it was a 3-2 series, or maybe it was a 3-1 series at the time of the last podcast. But since our last podcast, the Flyers, Game 6 at home, overtime victory. Vladar, 42 saves. I mean, what a game, what a win, what a series, what a team.
Yeah, they were also without Owen Tippett last night, which kind of showed they kind of just got floored right out the gate. It's tough. Like, it's this time of year, it's just, we're already just completely dramatic Italian Philadelphia sports fans, and then you add 2 playoff games of crazy magnitude in the same night at the same time interlapping with each other, and you just want to just send us into an emotional whirlwind. I can't even get upset with the Flyers getting down so much that early in the game last night. I got to lock in on the Sixers. I can't be crying about that and then flipping back to it.
And not only that,
my heart rate would have dropped. I don't even know what it went.
Not only that, but in my opinion, I mean, the Flyers are playing with house money in this series. They're a team that had a 3.8% chance of making the playoffs late in the season. Going into the season, they had, a 2% chance, of making the playoffs. And not only do they make the playoffs, but they take down the Pittsburgh Penguins to advance to the second round. So, I mean, no matter what happens in this series, I'm very, very proud of the Flyers, and they're still a very young team that has a bright future ahead of them. I do want to see them at least win a couple games of this series. Winning the series would be a miracle, in my opinion. This is one tough Hurricanes team, but...
I mean, it's the number one team in the conference. It's the team that we talked about last podcast, had to beat to get into the playoffs. They did in a shootout situation. There's no shootout situation in playoff hockey, and when you're without the guy that you're paying like the most, I think has the biggest contract on the roster, or one of the biggest contracts on the roster, and Owen Tippett, 8 for 49, you're going to be a little bit shorthanded. Plus, they've been ushering in a bunch of young guys with keep forgetting this dude's name because it's like Adam Rink, I think it is, the dude that scored the one goal in the one game. He's like his 3rd NHL playoff game. I forget his complete name.
Equally drawing a blank, but
yeah, let me hold on to that thought while I get his name real quick. Let's see if he even played minutes last night, because he was the guy that they actually substituted for Matvei Michkov to play the one game, and it worked out for them, and he had a big impact. I do not see him it's Alex Bump. I think that was his first career NHL game, and he had like 17 games played this season. So they brought him up in front of Matvei Michkov. Michkov looks like, and I'm looking at the box score, had the lowest plus-minus in the game yesterday, and that's what a lot of big diehard Flyers fans were talking about, that he was unplayable because of some of the silly mistakes that he was making. And we talked about Flyers hockey was built around the past couple of years. That was the biggest thing that they had going, was Michkov. That's what everybody was buying his jersey. He was the main attraction. And for a team that hadn't made the playoffs in like 6 to 7 years, he was like the one hope. And now they got Porter Martone obviously in the mix, and they're ushering in a bunch of young guys that are just playing collective. But it's tough when you're playing against a team like Carolina that's just experienced. They had the number 1 seed for a reason in the conference, and it kind of showed last night. And certain situations for certain guys sets up your goalie, and Vladar's not going to give you 42 saves and a shutout every single week. So, or every single game, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a miracle to win this series against the Hurricanes, but that's not anything to be upset about. Right, because it's just been a miracle run. I mean, they've accomplished way more than anyone ever thought this team could accomplish. They have a whole lot to be proud about. But with that being said, I would love to see them just take a game or two from Carolina before the series ends.
Yeah, I believe so. They've had some instilled veterans that are obviously like Couturier and Travis Konechny, TK, that have been in the mix for a while, but they don't have, like, when the Sixers are playing with house money, because they had the number 3 overall pick that's 20 years old, and you see how impactful he is, and he's comparable to, like, Porter Martone and Michkov. They don't, with those guys, even though they've been in the organization for a while, with the lack of playoff success for the Flyers, I know Couturier, like, dates all the way back, but even with those veteran guys I just mentioned, they don't have the type of experience that like a Joel Embiid and Paul George have compared to like the veteran types when you compare them. So No one's upset with the Flyers if they lose this series. Like you said, hopefully they can just win a game or two at a minimum, and they get really good playoff experience, getting 2 rounds of playoff hockey in for these young guys. And that's what I talked about for the Sixers as well, making the comparisons of them having so much young talent on both sides, is that with the Sixers, I said when they match up with the Celtics, who just won a championship less than 2 years ago, I'm saying to myself, all right, well, if VJ Edgecombe just gets 4 games of NBA playoff experience, that's good enough. You know what I mean? That's great learning curve and progression for his career this early to be in the atmosphere of playoff basketball.
And now he'll get a minimum of 11.
And that's exactly how you can feel about this Flyers roster as well, with all the young names that they have making a contribution. And it looks like they finally, even with Vladar struggling last night, 3 goals in an NHL playoff game versus the number 1 seeds, not even bad. Where's the offense at?
Yeah, no, I mean, Vladar's had an absolutely...
So they found her, and he's around our age, 28,
yeah, he's 29. I mean,
so he's going to be in the mix for a while. So
he can be around for a while.
They got the foundation set for the Flyers, and I think everybody knows they're coming. So, when Philadelphia teams realize they're in a position that they're able to capitalize, they're going to get this playoff experience this year with these young guys, and then they're probably going to go out and add a lot of talent in the offseason. And then that's going to be able to propel them. They had the foundation set of the young guys. You add some even more veterans that may have some playoff experience to mesh with this young team. And this could be a team that could find themselves in the top conference playoff spot themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And now let's talk about one move that sparked all this momentum in the city, right?
Hold on 1 second. Let me be dramatic. Because why does Bryson Stott only hit home runs versus the Miami Marlins?
He just hit another one?
He just smacked like a 3-run bomb, hit one the other day.
Yeah.
I posted it when everyone...
6-0.
I talked about it with...
Wow.
Yeah, I bet.
Where'd the other 3 ribbies come from? Bo Marsh and JT. Well, I mean, I was just about to get into that because there was a point in time this past week where the Flyers...
I know people saw my comment with Bryson Stott with that online.
I did see that. I did see that comment. But listen, there was a point in time this past week where the Flyers, who were originally up 3-2, had lost 2 in a row to Pittsburgh. Things were getting a little dicey. The Sixers were down 3-1. The Phillies were 9-19. And then sort of like the big bang, right? Rob Thomson gets fired. Don Mangley takes over. Flyers clinch it. Phillies come back down 3-1.
Have you seen how much...
Phillies come back down 3-1. Sixers come back down 3-1. And the Phillies won, 4 games in a row. They lost yesterday, but they're 4-1 in the Don Mattingly era. It seems like firing Rob Thomson has created an entire shift in the energy of Philadelphia. And it's a shame because it's not like it didn't happen to a great guy.
I know
Topper
you saw
was a
this.
Great guy.
I know you saw this as well, too, that I posted online was... Even post-Rob Thomson era, Dylan Moore finds himself in the 4-hole getting bats late in a game again.
but now he's
that has transitioned in. That is just a staple for the Phillies this season. But what a crazy 10 days in Philadelphia sports.
Wild 10 days.
Have you seen all the content that's been coming out too? That everyone's just like talking. Like Philadelphia sports is pretty much like what everybody's making content about in the sports world right now because there's just mass hysteria. On top of it, I don't want to tease the Eagles a little bit, but there was also a rumor that AJ Brown was in the Philadelphia Eagles facility on Friday this week.
I mean, dude, I said
everything. The sun is finally setting in Philadelphia. It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Stop fucking doing that. I said a week ago, if the Eagles do end up holding on to A.J. Brown, this is one of the greatest offenses on paper I've ever seen. And it's starting to look like it might be a reality. An offense with the guys to throw the ball to being Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Mekhi Lemon, who I honestly would create...
Hold on. No. I got something extremely interesting. You're going to be surprised by this because you just sparked a thought in me. I went on there and I pulled a clip and I said, A.J. Brown's on notice that Mekhi Lemon and Eli Sowers have joined the Eagles. Is A.J. Brown finally come to the realization that Mekhi Lemon isn't a threat to him as a Philadelphia Eagle, but more so a compliment, and the passing game is now fixed, and he wants to be a
That's what I
part
was
of the
about to
Philadelphia
say.
Eagles
That's
again?
what I was about to say. What I was about to say was because with how great Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are, most of their game has been, Jalen Hurts just throwing them the ball, them making contested catches, not many yards after the catch. So if you take those two guys and you finally put in a guy who can get separation, get wide open, create yards after the catch, if you add that in to what you currently have with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, this offense already looks unstoppable. Not to mention you have two great tight ends now with Dallas Goedert and Eli Stowers. Not to mention you have one of the best running backs in football, Saquon Barkley, paired with an absolute beast of Tank Bigsby. I mean, if A.J. Brown...
Pierce.
Well, yeah, him too.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, well, no, because I forgot all about him.
That's why I had to add him in there.
But yeah, no, good point there. So I mean, if AJ Brown sticks around, this offense is absolutely loaded. And not only is it just you're not just adding wide receiver talent, you're adding complementary wide receiver talent at that. So I mean, this.
I don't want to spark like Eagles talk too much, but I thought that was interesting. Also, with just the demeanor of Howie Roseman, I think he joined the Rich Eisen podcast, which everybody watches. Rich Eisen,
I love Rich Eisen because not only does he interview sports media figures, he interviews everybody, and his interviews are always phenomenal. Mount Rushmore
sports media, guaranteed.
Yeah, I would put him up there as well.
Howie Roseman just interviewed him after the draft, like he does every single year. And Howie just goes on, and the first thing he says before he gets asked questions, he's like, "No, A.J. Brown's not getting traded. Jalen Hurts and his deficiencies. Is there anything else you want to ask?" And it's like, that's just the demeanor of Philadelphia. We all know all the bullshit that the media wants to throw at it. Not saying Rich Eisen's not going to clickbait him, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the overall media and the negative light of how they paint Philadelphia sports. We know the bullshit that you're going to try and say. Joel Embiid sucks. He's never available, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes out and drills you in Game 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, A.J. Brown's getting traded, and then he's at the facility low-key, and everybody, no one sees that. So I'm not going to commit to A.J. Brown still being an Eagle because maybe they're just cordial, and some people think he's still going to get traded and he's cordial. But also, A.J. Brown posted like that, we're talking social media because everyone's a social media detective now in 2026, and that's pretty much, people are giving real clues and hints on social media. That's just today's age of what everything's grown into. But he posted like some work with a magazine the other day, and usually like a player, him in the past too, like whole players like that are upset will strip their whole social media account of like Eagles stuff. I haven't seen that happen from A.J. Brown, and I don't put too much stock myself into it.
I never put stock into that, but that's an interesting point. Going back to the Phillies, there are a few things I want to talk about with them. I mean, we've talked about Don Mattingly making a difference. Now, not to talking about rookies in the city of Philadelphia really stepping up. Justin Crawford, now already early into his rookie year, has 2 walk-off hits.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Well, we talked about the demeanor of people taking over and being the calling the shots for Philadelphia sports teams, and Howie Roseman being like a GM for them. Everybody knows Howie Roseman is the best GM in football and has been for the past couple of years. Also, Don Mattingly, they asked him at his opening press conference after the win, what's changed? He's like, nothing really. But that's the nonchalant demeanor I want, as in Rob Thompson's I'm not trying to kill Rob Thomson because Rob Thompson, I like him as a person, just as the Phillies manager.
Yeah, I love him as a person.
And he's important. He said he might even take a role with the Phillies in some capacity.
He's honestly such a great guy.
But
he really is.
I don't want him as a talent evaluator by any stretch of the imagination.
Agreed.
But Don Mattingly seems like the nonchalant where it's he will actually put it on you when he thinks things are wrong, but he's not going to sit there and give you a BS answer. And that's just the face of Philadelphia sport. Those guys, it was Rick Tocchet brought so much to the Flyers as a coach as opposed to their last regime that was arguing with the players and everything, and the face of the franchise and Michkov and all that. And there was a little bit of a struggle with Michkov and Tocchet this year to begin, and we'll see what Michkov turns into because he's having a little bit of struggle in the playoffs right now. But since then, he's still got 20 goals for him this season. And it's just the guys that are in charge, whether it's coaches or the front office people for Philadelphia, there's a certain type of mindset that you have to navigate in the Philadelphia sports realm. And I feel like they have a lot of guys in all 4 of the major teams right now that like really match up to what they need. And you saw the instant spark that Don Mattingly was able to provide. Kind of feel bad for Drew because he couldn't have turned down this job at all. Like, was he going to turn down the job when his son is in the organization in that type of role? Yeah. So it's like he can't turn down this job. And maybe they felt the pressure and they pivoted to him, but it's working out so far. And I feel like as he gets more comfortable, you'll see him get more comfortable. And this team's just going to take off. Everybody knows they have the most talent. I don't know what it was when they were 8-19 and they had the worst record in the league and not like tied for the worst record with the Mets in the league. But if I look at the odds, I mean, everybody knows
they were favorites going into this game.
Outside of the Dodgers, they're top 3 in the World Series odds every single year. And with how bad that stretch and firing their manager in May, they're still a top 10 World Series odds team.
No, I mean,
and if you want to get the price right now, it's 27 times the money. And before the season started, it was like plus 1,200.
Yeah.
Even though the Dodgers were plus 110, which is crazy.
Now would be a good time to buy in. Now, talking about the talent on this team, one guy I want to talk about is Kyle Schwarber. Because to me, it feels like, even despite being, how old is he now? He's 33 years old. It feels like, to me, he gets better and better each season as a Philly, right? I mean, if you look at his numbers throughout his Phillies tenure, right? His first season, he hits 46 bombs, a 323 on base percentage, an 827 OPS. A great season. But then, you fast forward to 2 years later, now he may have only hit 38 home runs, but now his on base percentage is up to 366. He has an 851 OPS. Last year, leads the league in home runs for the second time as a Philly with 56 bombs, leads the league in ribbies with 32. He's got 365 on base percentage, now with 928 OPS. And you look at this season, currently leading the league in homers. And when I first thought of this, I was checking the stats, he actually had at the time a higher on base percentage and OPS than last season as well. Now it's dipped down a little lower, but still, I mean, the progression each year with Kyle Schwarber, it just seems like he only gets better. And he's 33 years old now.
Yeah, well, he's also still batting 210, so that makes me mad. I always talk about that, but I love Kyle Schwarber because at any moment in time he just drops 2 home runs in a game just out of nowhere for you, and like they don't have dudes that can do that in their lineup. I haven't really tweaked the batting order too much. I was looking at today's, I brought up the box score just to look at what today's going on. And Trey's obviously, once he gets more warm, he led the league, the National League in batting average last year. Once he gets more warm, I mean, I just think this team is bound to get off. Alec Boehm's taking on the 4-hole responsibilities. Just glad Dylan Moore's not out there doing that. But they need a bench piece so bad.
They do. Well, the final thing I want to say about Kyle Schwarber also, he is now just 6 home runs away from being top 10 all time in Phillies home run leaders.
He just got to active, 350? Active the other day?
351. Because he had 2 home runs the same day.
I'm saying like 350. He hit that milestone the other day. So, yeah, I mean, this team's taking shape. They need a bench piece so bad, though, because if you can get Felix Reyes, I don't want to stunt his growth, but Felix Reyes isn't going to be starting playoff games if this team finds himself back in the playoff mix. If they can get Felix Reyes back into the bench bat role and actually get somebody that can fill in like a true outfield spot for them, they had Garrett Stubbs playing outfield the other day, man.
Well, also, not only that shows you how unplayable Dylan Moore is if he's getting sent down in lieu of Garrett Stubbs. If Garrett Stubbs is keeping his job in the majors over Dylan Moore, that should tell you how bad Dylan Moore is.
And the platoons, they're still platooning Bryson Stott all the time, but versus the Marlins, he's got to play
Justin Crawford needs to play every day. I am getting so tired of it. Play him every day. Is he playing today?
Yeah, but I'm just saying that they platoon not only the outfield, they're still doing that. They're still platooning that with Sosa and mixing him in, but versus the Marlins, he's got to play every single day. He might have to be leadoff hitter versus the Marlins.
Boston Scott was the giant killer on the Eagles. Is Bryson Stott the Phillies version of that with the Miami Marlins?
Who is somebody for each of the other teams that I can think of that just randomly... I mean, we had a bunch of defensemen score goals for the Flyers versus the Penguins in the playoff series. Like the 2 out of 3 goals for Game 1 were both defensemen. I think that was Sanheim and somebody else.
I think if you look at the basketball version, I think VJ Edgecombe might be becoming. Yeah, because I mean, his first career NBA game against the Celtics, he dropped 34, and then just had a very good series against them in the playoffs, helping them come back down 3-1.
I was trying to think of somebody that wasn't even on like the current team. I was trying to think of somebody like a little bit faded back a couple years ago. We also didn't talk about just like something that just sparked my memory going back into the playoff catalog of Philadelphia sports. The other day, I think we mentioned it when we were talking to Mike, but what's up with the Toronto Raptors rims in their arena? Did you see I know you didn't. You don't watch.
I saw that. I saw the game-winning shot. Is that what you're referring to?
Identical double doink to the Kawhi shot in Toronto.
Don't even bring that up.
RJ Barrett. I like RJ Barrett a lot. I've always defended him. It was not only the recreation of that, it was also the recreation of the Halliburton burst the Knicks shot.
Well, that was more of a direct recreation.
And I was watching that game live. I was watching that game live, and I was like stunned. I was stunned because, dude, the Cavs are like they're playing a Game 7 tonight. But
yeah, well, we have 2 big Game 7s today. You have
I want to talk about the Phillies more, but I don't want to keep mixing
Pistons.
it up. But like, I just have random stuff that I'm thinking about because the Cavs are like they made that gigantic move in trading for James Harden at that age and getting rid of Darius Garland, the former 5th overall pick from Vanderbilt, and he was a numerous-time All-Star, one of the better players in the East, especially as a point guard. They traded like a decade's worth of age to do that, and they said Donovan Mitchell might be on the trade block if they can't get it done. If they lose in Game 7 to the Raptors, who I talked about before, I like that trio of Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and RJ Barrett. Like, the Cavs, that opens up another upper echelon spot. The Bucks get rid of Giannis with that nightmare of a situation going on there. With VJ Edgecombe and the balance of the veterans that the Sixers have, they could just be carved out right into where the Knicks have put themselves in the past couple of years as that top 3 Eastern Conference playoff team. You think with what the Sixers are doing right now and the momentum they have, and the Pistons are playing as the number 1 seed in the conference today in a Game 7 with the Magic who made a bunch of things, I think the Sixers could leap past the Magic and the Pistons, and they would be that team next to the Celtics and the Knicks as the top upper echelon Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I could say that, definitely.
But that's like, those are like, not only we have, like, this is, people were saying that really cover NBA that I follow and respect their opinions a lot. They're saying this is like the best first round of NBA playoffs that we've ever seen.
No, it's been an absolutely insane.
Even in the series, I mean, besides the Thunder and the Sun series was a little bit going back and forth too. It was getting chippy. Dylan Brooks is always bringing that edge, but even the Spurs Trailblazers series, when the Trailblazers were keeping those games competitive, and when Wemby got hurt, people were like, "Oh, they were like on alert." So the
other thing about this first round has been the shock factor. I mean, a lot of people had predicted the NBA Finals to be the Celtics versus the Nuggets, and they've both been knocked out in round 1. It's been entirely unpredictable.
We talked to Mike.
Crazy.
We talked to Mike yesterday. You think a non-Ant Edwards team is beating Jokic in a playoff series? Like, that was insane.
No, I did not. No one saw that.
Jamal Murray was averaging like 27, 7, and 5 this year.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming. Nobody.
Go down the list. Raptors, Cavs had that moment to push it to Game 7, and then, I mean, that's a crazy Game 7 today.
Yeah.
Knicks, Hawks, we saw the Knicks are coming off one of the craziest playoff games of all time. They were up 82-39.
Yeah.
In the playoff game. The biggest playoff deficit a team's ever lost by in the NBA was 58, and that game was at like 53 or 54 point deficit at one point in time in the first half. OG Anunoby had 26 points at halftime, a little bit less than they scored as a team.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the big, like, not to sound
LeBron
biased,
was cooking a bunch of draft picks.
Not to sound biased, but I do think the craziest series of the first round as of right now, and I think no matter what happens tonight, I think you can crown the craziest series of round 1 to be Sixers Celtics. down 3-1.
Well, I think
I think the
Sixers.
I mean, you can't really top that.
People were, and also just specific to that game last night, people were in awe. Everybody was watching it. That was like national.
Yeah.
But
Game 6 was the most viewed game.
Well,
in the
I do
playoffs.
this as a big time UFC fan too. People complain about the events they put on, and then they go out, and not every fight have to always be a finish. For it to be interesting, and people complain about the NBA all the time, and then they don't watch the playoffs. Last year with Tyrese Halliburton, what he did, dude, that is like, no one will ever forget what was happening in that playoffs, dude. Ever. That was ridiculous what Tyrese Halliburton was doing. Bro, they brought the OKC Thunder, OKC Thunder's betting line to win the next 3 NBA championships was at plus 700 at one point in time.
That's insane. That wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
And they were brought to a game 7 by Tyrese Halliburton. The team that you remove him, if we're being really true, like basketball sickos, should Tyrese Halliburton's name been on the draft odds on the sports books or on the betting odds for the sports books as MVP? They were literally the worst team in the NBA pretty much this year. When you remove them, they were in game 7 of the NBA Finals last year with him. And everybody wants to say he also got rated the most overrated player in the league, and that's something that's
crazy.
You know what's also crazy?
What?
Who did Tyrese Halliburton bring up specifically as a name that helped him build some confidence throughout the playoffs last year?
Ooh,
his relationship with Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Tyrese Halliburton's definitely probably in Joel Embiid's ear, playing back and forth, as in he's giving it back to him, as in bro, this is your moment now. You saw what I did last year. This is your moment.
No, you go out there and do it. And you know what? I mean, Embiid. I can't wait to watch more Sixers.
The overall first round of the NBA playoffs, though, before we get back to Phillies talk, bro, it wasn't just that. The Lakers series, bro, the Lakers were plus 400 without Luka and Austin Reeves. And that was expecting Kevin Durant to play the whole series, and then just game 1, just out of nowhere, Kevin Durant's just missing game 1, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, yo. And they're still plus 200, and the Lakers just go 3-0 on them. And he plays one of those games, and he's just out for the whole series. And Edwards gets hurt. Luka's already hurt. Luka's already the best player in the entire league, walking triple-double. Luka gets hurt. Got all star players getting hurt, and it still provided crazy-ass games in the NBA.
Yeah, no, it's been wild. But let's get back to the Phillies now. A week ago I was ready to say that they're going to miss the playoffs. I mean, what is the new outlook for the Phillies this season?
Yeah, well, like I said, to come to my analysis, I listened to a bunch of different podcasts myself and kind of just blend it into my own recipe. And a lot of people just they were at the bottom of the basement of that run for the Phillies when they were they peaked at the lowest of being 8-19. We were they're done. They're looking into the offseason. And I didn't get that far, but I'm dude, they're really building a significant hole for themselves. But at the end of the day, with the Nationals and Marlins being more competitive, the Mets are also down in the dumps too. And the Braves are the best team in the league. The Braves probably will win the division with what they've carved out already for themselves in the lead that they carved out. But the Phillies can be right back in the wild card mix. And they perform better as a wild card team.
Well, this is reminding me of 2022, right? You have the Braves firmly ahead in first place.
They had the worst run differential in the entire
the
league.
Phillies also have the worst defensive run saved in the league by a wide
minus 48 is
But
insane.
Getting back to what I was saying, this reminds me of 2022, right? I mean, the Braves firmly ahead in first place. The Phillies, at one point in time with a terrible record, they fire their manager. They start to play better. I mean, this could end up being a similar finish to the regular season with the Phillies sneaking in with the wild card spot.
Well, what the wild card standings right now, they're only 6.5 games out, and they fire their manager before May, and they're 6.5 games out. They could have turned to Don Mattingly, and they could have split as 500, and they would be 8.5 games out of the wild card race right now. But they went on a 4-game winning streak. They're up 6-0 now.
Yeah, so I mean that'll be 5-1 now. Their last 6.
And the Marlins, who they're playing today, are 3.5 games back out. So the Marlins, if they somehow come back today, they would be 17-17. But you take a team out that's in front of you, and somebody also, I don't know who it was, there was a top insider at the lowest of the Phillies lows. They were talking about how we always wanted Ketel Marte. I talked about on the podcast before being one of my favorite second basemen. Love switch hitters. Perfect Philly guy. The bottom baseman of Phillies talk a couple weeks ago or last week or the past couple weeks. They were talking about trading Bryce Harper for Brandon Pfaadt, the pitcher that cooked us in the playoffs a couple years ago, and Ketel Marte. So instead of bringing Ketel Marte onto the roster to complement Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and Trey Turner, they were talking about moving on from Bryce Harper. That's how low this talk. That's the Joel Embiid that's the Jalen Hurts conversation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, Harper has.
So at the end of the day, we're still not in the greatest spot as a team.
No,
we don't even have
this is
an
interim. Brighter now than it looked a week ago.
Yeah, we have an interim manager also who's up there in age, so we don't even know. He's like the Vic Fangio type situation. We don't even know how much longer he's going to be coaching, but we love the guy, and he brings a different type of vibe, just like a Vic Fangio for the Eagles. So Nick Nurse also just randomly getting off, and Nick Nurse impressed me. Did Nick Nurse impress you?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, I was very down on
to him, listen to his press conference, and he's saying verbiage that, like, dude, he's inspiring. You just know, compared to Doc Rivers and what his type of speeches are. I'm listening to Nick Nurse after the game. He's like, yeah, we know, he literally said this word for word. Maybe not the exact phrase, but he said the word cooking, and I thought it was hilarious. He said, yeah, we know Derek White when he gets cooking. And it's like when you say those little, like when you can relate to the players, it's like you're not like, yeah, when Derek White's shooting this 3-pointer, and it's more so like the vibe, like, yeah, right. Derek White's cooking, and you just like simplify things and have that vibe for the team. It's the little stuff like that.
Nick Nurse is undoubtedly a better head coach for this team than Doc Rivers ever was.
And I've been critical of him, and I was really questioning him, but now we also got to give credit to Daryl, man.
Daryl. Oh, Daryl Moore? Yeah. Well, I mean...
the sun has set through the storm with Daryl Morey, and now we're actually looking at what he's been trying to put this roster and construct it into. It was Daryl Morey that... I
can't seem to... Was he the GM that drafted Tyrese Maxey?
Yeah, he's responsible.
Yeah, so I mean, you draft Tyrese Maxey at pick 21, you take VJ Edgecombe over Ace Bailey at pick 3, which, I mean, me and you both...
A little tidbit to the situation, too, is he traded James Harden. James Harden was making all that ruckus before the season. He did it before the season started, so he gave Tyrese Maxey a full year as opposed to the NBA trade deadline and ruining months of Tyrese Maxey's development as the face of the Sixers franchise now. And he didn't stunt that growth, and he got out of the situation when he needed. Got some role players. We were in that play-in game. We remember the Nicholas Batum playing game versus the Heat where he was cooking.
Fourth quarter, why the fuck Batum, man?
Yeah. So we know that he was trying to get the most out, and those draft picks helped them set up with what they have going on now. And I think the Jared McCain trade is going to... The verbiage and the way he said it when it happened, it definitely looked bad. And then everything that happened after that, with Joel getting hurt and Paul George getting suspended and us having to rely on a rookie and all that. But at the end of the day, when the sun has set on the roster construction for the Philadelphia 76ers, we find ourselves in round 2 versus the Knicks that we match up pretty well with.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. Game 1's Monday night, and I cannot wait.
And being a Philadelphia sports podcast, you see that my ADHD brain's going all over the place, but the Sixers just keep bopping into my brain with stuff that I want to talk about because it's just like that's the type of moment that they just created. And I felt like I tweeted last night, and it just felt like a traditional Sixers moment where 12 minutes away from changing the entire narrative behind the process and Joel Embiid and everything that we've went through. And then that's when the Celtics start going on the run. And then I look up at the stats that the production is providing on the television broadcast, and it's saying we're 2 for 12, shooting 17% in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left. And I'm like, dude, we're screwed. We're screwed. Yeah, we're getting baited. We're getting baited.
Very worried at that point in time. Absolutely.
But for the Phillies, we just got to keep chipping away. It's like a chisel now. The division, we'll worry about that when we get in position to have over a 500 record and if the brace falter off. But I was telling you before the podcast, you were kind of surprised by it. I mean, Matt Olson, beast again, and I talked about him a couple years ago not being the same player that he was when they were cranking remember when the Braves hit in 2022 or 2023, they hit how many, everybody in their lineup had 20 home runs? It's literally everybody in the starting lineup had 20 home runs or something like that. Their catcher, who's also their DH, Drake Baldwin, is putting himself in the MVP race to begin the season. Acuna just got hurt, though. He's on the 10-day IL. Top 5 player in the end.
It seems like he's starting to have some injury issues, Acuna.
Yeah, but he's awesome when he's out there. He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did you see that throw? Like, we talked about Adolis Garcia with the cannon from to the point where yesterday they were holding, like, dudes aren't rounding third base because of Adolis Garcia's arm in the outfield. Like, people, like, even when bases loaded, you're trying to capitalize on runs, people have to hold up. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday's game or the game before, he threw one that was completely off target, but the threat of him and his arm, like, literally stops base runners from scoring.
Yeah.
But I get to that by saying, remember that Ronald Acuna throw from last year in the outfield where he threw the laser from right field to third base in the air and threw that dude out? Like,
yeah, no, he's unreal.
But Adolis Garcia, bro, just somehow get hot, 25 home runs and throw people out. What do you want out of Adolis Garcia?
I want him to
Can he be a four-hole guy?
I just want him to be better than
Can
Max
he be
Kepler.
the four-hole guy?
I just want him to be better than Max Kepler. That's all I really want at this point.
Can Adolis Garcia, that addition, grow into being, you have to have the fear of Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and then Adolis Garcia backing Bryce Harper up? How do you feel about that?
I mean, we got to see more out of him. You know, he's been definitely a disappointment so far. I thought, you know, he would be an outlier to that, you know, 1-year signing the Phillies keep doing every offseason where whether you bring in a Max Kepler or Whit Merrifield, you know, a lot of people thought he would be that all over again. I actually thought he was going to, you know, make an impact on this team, be an upgrade over Nick Castellanos. And so far I've been completely wrong. He's been another Max Kepler. He's been another Whit Merrifield. He hasn't even been better than Nick Castellanos. So, I mean, at this point, I just want him to be better than Max Kepler was last year. That's all I want out of him at this point.
And as for Felix Reyes getting called up, and he's actually platooning for Adolis Garcia today, what do you think Felix Reyes can actually grow into for the Phillies? Do you think he can, like I said, I believe
think
that
he's got good upside. I think
as a bench bat, like if he might be a true bench bat for a team that lacks pop in a playoff situation,
I can see
and
that.
pinch hit situations, but you also can't get burnt where we were getting burnt by Dylan Moore. Being that I heard something creeping up. Your tape jobs is absolutely just ruined.
You need better tape. You need better tape.
You just can't handle.
You need better tape. Get better tape. Get better tape.
Go put it back up right now.
We're ending in like a couple minutes.
Go put it back up.
There's no point now.
Yeah.
There's no point now.
I thought I heard like footsteps coming from over here, and then it's the tape job that you just can't even
get better
complete
tape.
that task.
This is what we're done with. What is this going to do? Nothing. Un gatto the fungal, as they
run
say.
some sponsorship deals, why don't you? And run my laptop while you're at it. But yeah, for the Eagles, not too much going on. They're just settling in. Kai Lemon already agreed to his contract. Eli Stowers is a beast, and he jumps 45.5 inches in the air. Also, I'm watching UFC yesterday, UFC Perth, Philadelphia, South Jersey scene. We actually have UFC 330 in Philadelphia. We have UFC 328 local fighters in action, Sean Brady and Pat Sabatini. Where I'm going with this is Eagles-wise to tight end. There's a dude in the UFC in the heavyweight division. What do you think his nickname is? You never get these hints or references I ever give.
No, I've got nothing.
Just give me something.
Give me better hints. Give me better hints. Give me better hints.
There's a big, heavy dude that has a nickname in sports. What do you think his nickname is, and why would that tie into the Eagles? Why I'm bringing up the UFC?
Don't know.
The Vanilla Gorilla.
How does that tie into the Eagles?
Is there not a player on the roster that refers to himself as the Vanilla Gorilla?
Who?
Their backup defensive tackle?
Ty Robinson?
Yes, we've had.
I've never heard anyone call him the Vanilla Gorilla. He is Ty 95. I'm not saying I doubt you. You don't have to show me proof. I believe you. I'm just saying I've never heard that.
NBC Sports says Vanilla Gorilla.
I just said I'll take your word for it. I'm just saying I've never heard.
For a guy that I don't know,
never heard.
Like that would be something that you would know. We talked about on the podcast. We got clippage of moments on there. I don't know how you.
I mean, I like the nickname Ty 95. That's why I call him.
But I thought that was funny and interesting. But guy ended up not having the best performance. And Ty Robinson, I don't even know if he's going to be in the Eagles rotation this year. random dudes that could step up. I mean, the offense seems loaded. Everybody kind of knows where they're going to have production from. Now that they have a true backup tight end they invested in, they have a true receiver they invested in. We don't know if AJ is going to be in the mix, but hopefully he is as fans. But we realize it's a business and sports media. As for that, it's not, as a fan, you can't always expect for what you think is going to happen. They can also get assets to build around this team, maybe getting out of like the James Harden situation like we talked about. And when they did get out of it, that kind of relates to like getting out of the AJ situation if he truly is unhappy. But offense is kind of set in their ways. Maybe a guard emerges on the offensive line or something like that. But I feel like the defensive side, the next Moro Jomo for the team, that may be a guy they drafted and put an investment in, and now he grows into an actual role. Ty Robinson reminds me of like somebody who people kind of thought could maybe make an impact. I keep having my thoughts about their linebacker rotation minus Nakobe Dean, Jahad Campbell, if they're going to actually try to line them up on the edge a little bit or anything like that. And I feel like Smile London might be somebody that could actually emerge in like the pass coverage game that has a lot of versatility. A Georgia guy that I like as a really athletic linebacker, special team type guy. I feel like he might be able to hold his own out there and maybe find himself in the linebacker.
Well, yeah, rotation. I mean that's the thing is you can primarily have your two outside linebackers as Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond, but what you can do is you can mix it in a bit where you have Smile London or even Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out there with Zach Bond while you have Jahad Campbell coming off the edge.
He's cooked, bro.
Huh?
He's cooked. You keep bringing him up. He's cooked, bro.
I'm just saying he's a possibility. But
I was going to say maybe goal line packages. You see Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Well, the point I'm not making is not Jeremiah Trotter Jr. focus. The point I'm making is you can run sets where you have Campbell off the edge and you move somebody else over to the linebacker position alongside Zach Bond. That's the point I'm making.
They could also it wasn't the right time for those guys to be on the roster, but OG Eagles. I don't even know what the word would be when we were just down in the dumps, like Zach Cunningham year. Like a guy like that was actually making plays for the Eagles defense. It was just for a team that sucked. You know what I mean? Like Zach Cunningham would be like if they found like a Zach Cunningham type guy as like a short-term free agent deal. That would be actually like a big piece for this defense to acquire.
Yeah, but I do really like Small.
I do want to develop guys around the roster, and I have some guys that could possibly do that. I just think Trotter in a close, short area could make some plays, but the second he gets on the field, teams are going to pass the ball 100% of the time and just isolate him on a tight end, and he's going to get cooked. But that's why I like Smile London, because he's like that really athletic, versatile type where he might get cooked in the run game, trying to have guards get up to the second level and get their hands on him. But if you're in a passing situation on third down, you can see Smile London matching up with guys on the field.
And that would be a more likely scenario for moving Jahad Campbell over to.
I think they're going to also
be on the third down.
And we talk about Jahad Campbell getting moved around. If Nolan Smith, depending on what they do on the edge out there, we talked about Jahad Campbell getting in the mix. I think Jalen Hunt might find himself a little bit more off ball too. He had the most picks on the roster last year, and he's coming off the edge as well. I know he also had the most sacks.
She's staying on the edge. She's staying on the edge.
I mean, he's a former safety years ago. So if you can, we talked about before, using him in pass coverage and being deceptive, that's something that makes the defense so much more versatile of what Vic Fangio is trying to do, being able to disguise guys in one look and then be able to drop them in coverage. And he's obviously capable of doing that. So I think, yeah, it's a good. We'll see how they use Cole Wisniewski too, because he might be somebody like. The safety position, they're trying to get the dude that they got in the trade, the cornerback that played a lot of nickel. I forget his name, but he was on like a big contract, and they traded for him, Michael Carter Jr. A couple years ago, and they're trying to transition him to safety. Makuba's coming off the injury. It wasn't soft tissue, though. It wasn't a ligament. It was a bone, so hopefully he heals correctly, and he's back in the mix. But that's still like a big question mark on the roster, and we thought they would go that way. They had dudes on the board in the draft. They could have went that way, even in the second round and in the first round, and they pivoted to commit to the offense. So we'll see what they do at
Justin
safety.
Crawford just knocked in a run with an RBI single. 7-0 now, Phillies. But yeah, no, I mean it is. I feel like this is now the second or third season in a row where we're going into the season. No, second season in a row going into the season where we're curious about what they are going to do with the secondary. Because in my opinion, obviously as of right now, you can't rely on a 7th-round pick to be your starting safety. So
but inside the red zone, it's going to be interesting, specifically defensively, because in a 2-cornerback set, which nickel is usually what you have to run with the 13 personnel taking over the NFL in recent memory, and 3 wide receiver sets. In a base defensive set, do they move Cooper DeJean to safety and have Tariq Woolen out on the edge with Q? And that's how they run it?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. That's also a legit possibility. So there's definitely a few possibilities depending on if they're able to bring in extra safety help or not. Depending on how Wisniewski looks in off-season training camp, preseason, who knows? Maybe he comes in and just blows you away right away, like Reed Blankenship sort of did, and wins the starting job. You never know.
Did you see Philadelphia sports legend, Eagles legend, just retired? Mythical player.
No.
Let's see if you strike out on another hint that I gave you.
Just tell me who it is.
Justin Simmons. We were just talking about
Simmons. Oh, yeah, I
Simmons.
did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
So he's out of the mix now forever.
Yeah.
So, but this team's loaded on offense, obviously, and that's with or without A.J. Brown. So,
yeah,
we'll see how that situation plays out, but they're in a great spot. Defensively, which is probably where the question marks will go, but maybe they give the luxury and they want to add to the offense because the issues are also tied to the offense, mainly tied to the offense, and the defense, they feel more comfortable with things kind of settling out if they don't put the same resources because they have to do this more resources and put them into the investments into the offense because they have a guy like Vic Fangio calling the defense and being the staple as opposed to switching offensive coordinators every single year and not having like a set thing going on offense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see how everything shapes out.
And if we're going to talk about, we don't really talk about on the field, we talk about roster construction so much for the Eagles. If we want to, just glimpse into, we talk about passing over the middle, one thing I'll leave you guys before we get out of here for episode 134 of the Paisan Sports Podcast, make sure you guys go like and subscribe. We're going to talk about the other teams too, but with the Eagles on the field specifically, I pose this question. Is Jalen Hurts going to use his legs and start getting back to the running department, or do the Eagles actually allow him to, run QB running sets, or is this actually a new era that we're going to see with all these weapons around him where he's just going to be a true point guard?
Yeah, I think the latter. Yeah, I mean, especially if you go into the season still with A.J. Brown, with how many weapons he's going to have out there, I think you're going to see him use his legs less. And
they get a less developed guy positionally at tight end that's an athletic freak, and then they get a guy that outperforms his athletic he's an athletic guy, obviously, but he outperforms his size, I would say, in Mekhi Lemon. Are they going to try to get back to the 2022 version of, short RPO type style offense? And if AJ's in the mix there with slants over the middle, Mekhi Lemon running after the catch, Devontae going deep, Eli Stowers up the seam, Dallas Goedert up the seam, Saquon out of the backfield, Hurts using his legs or running or throwing, it's a lot of different ways this offense can attack a defense with a new offensive coordinator that comes from a really good coaching
I said earlier in
tree.
the podcast, if A.J. Brown sticks around, this is one of the most loaded offenses I have ever seen.
And
it's going to be very exciting
even if he doesn't, they have 5 guys that can do so many different things and play specific roles for their offense that have size or don't have size, with 2 big tight ends and then smaller receivers, and then if you add A.J. back in the mix, a guy. So, yeah, I'm happy. We'll see what goes on with Dontavian Wicks and how he even feels. Is he going to start voicing? Is he the true, actually upset wide receiver? He just got $12 million extension.
You got other wide receivers as well that you could justify giving the ball to. So it's not even just Dontavian Wicks. So you have 3 or 4 guys outside of Smitty, Lemon, and AJ Brown that you could justify giving the ball to a considerable amount of time on offense in the wide receiver room. So it's not just Wicks; it's other guys as well.
Yeah, so we'll see by the next podcast, episode 135 of the Paisan Sports Podcast. We'll be on the lookout for how much closer the Phillies can get themselves back into the MLB playoff race and the wild card specifically, because we don't expect the division at this point. But the wild card race is definitely up for grabs, and beating a team like the Marlins and winning that series that's in front of you in the wild card race can definitely help. And the new regime with Don Mattingly for the Sixers, we'll might even be live before the next episode 135, just with what the Sixers have going on, to speak on maybe like a live preview show or something like that. But we'll see how that series plays out. It's going to be physical. And yeah, we feel really good at this. Might be the best we felt as Sixers fans in the past decade.
Yeah,
of Sixers basketball.
Agreed.
Eagles, left you with those questions that we just had. And as for the Flyers, we're proud of you regardless of what happens.
Just keep doing your thing.
You're so young.
Just keep doing your thing.
Of all the teams playing with house money in Philadelphia sports right now, whether it's the Phillies trying to make the playoffs with a manager, even though they went to the World Series with an interim manager that they anointed from within the last time they did it, and the Sixers beating a team they probably shouldn't have beat. With all the teams playing with house money, the Flyers, you're the youngest team. No one expected 0.3. I mean, what was it, 0.3 or 3% chance to make the playoffs? No one thought you were going to be in this situation. So just go out there and do your thing and play freely, and maybe that might open up the things for you to actually have success versus the number one team in the conference. But thank you guys for tuning in to the Paisan Sports Podcast on What's the Deal Sports Zach Deal with Dante DePlacido, and we'll see you next week.